Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. My name is Rachel Kennedy and you are watching Living the Denver Boulder Lifestyle. Today I'm going to be taking you on part 2 of our driving tour through the Highlands neighborhood. So today I'm going to be taking you through Berkeley and Highland Square. If you missed it, make sure to go back and watch part 1, in which I take you through Low, High, and Sunnyside. So just to recap, the Highlands neighborhood is part of North Denver, or used to be known as North Denver. We sit just on the west side of I-25, right across from downtown. So super easy accessibility to downtown, but has a great neighborhood feel and has great walkability. It's been one of Denver's longtime running hotspots, and I don't think it's ending anytime soon. It just seems to be growing and growing, and as the demand picks up, the prices grow higher. So the Highlands neighborhood is comprised of 4 different quadrants, or sub-neighborhoods that I call them. Low High is one, Sunnyside, Berkeley, and Highland Square is the 4th. All right, so before we get started on this tour of Berkeley and Highland Square, I would love for you to hit that notification and that subscribe button that is popping up on your screen below, so that you get notified every time I put new videos out, which is every Thursday afternoon. All right, so let's get started on this tour. All right, so I am starting our tour here near the intersection of 46th Ave and Federal. So this lake that is right in front of us after we go around this little circle is called Rocky Mountain Lake, and you can see beautiful mountains here. There is a trail that goes around the lake, and then a big park here. There's some baseball fields over here, and that's about it. It's just a park that people will come and walk around. We don't have a ton of water here in Colorado, so when we get lakes or ponds or whatever it is, people tend to really cherish it. So this is actually one of 2 lakes in the Berkeley neighborhood. I'm going to take you into or around Berkeley Lake, which is the bigger of the 2 lakes, as it hosts a little bit more activity and seems to be more of like a central kind of gathering spot for people. So I'm going to go west, or turn right here, away from Federal, down 46th Avenue. I would call it the northernmost border to Berkeley, and it is one of the main thoroughfares through Berkeley that is not very busy. You can see we're on a double yellow, which typically insinuates that it is a busier street, but you can see the traffic here is nowhere near, what it would be even on like Zuni or 44th Ave through the Sunnyside neighborhood. 46 is a beautiful street to live on. It almost feels more like a parkway than it does like an avenue. And a parkway, what makes a parkway is that there's typically a grassy median between the 2 lanes of traffic going each way, so that it kind of breaks up the heavy traffic flow. So 46th Ave feels like a parkway, but it doesn't have the actual parkway differentiator. That's what I'm gonna call it. I don't know if that's the right term. So you can see we have super cute little tutors, is what we call these properties here on the right hand side, built in the 1920s. They tend to be pretty small. I would say that these properties are anywhere from 900 without a basement to 17 to maybe 2200 on the high end. This bungalow here on the right hand side is one of the bigger properties, and that one's probably about 3,000 square feet. So what makes Berkeley so special is that it's, one, super close to downtown, and it has really, really great walkability. I'm going to take you down Tennyson Street, which is the main, kind of like the main street in Berkeley. Tons of great restaurants, shops, bars. They host, a handful of community events. They have a can't remember what it's called. It's like Dine Out on Tennyson or something of that nature, where everybody buys tickets. The restaurants all, you know, have like a cocktail and an appetizer that they serve, and people buy tickets to the event. And they just walk up and down Tennyson and grab a cocktail, eat some appetizers, pop on to the next, you know, the next venue. So this park here on our right hand side that's sitting right in front of us is, this is Berkeley Lake. And we're sitting right at 46th and Tennyson is the intersection that we're at. So Berkeley Lake, I'm going to take you into a little bit more. This building here on the right hand side is the local library. They host like Mommy and Me, you know, book readings and such. Tennis courts, public tennis courts here. And then we have a rec center up here that does have an outdoor pool. The lake doesn't allow any like paddle boards or anything. I think you can fish on the lake, but that's about it. You're not allowed to like actually get on the lake. All right, so I want to talk about Lakeside real quick. This is Lakeside right behind me. It is one of Denver's oldest amusement parks. It is still family owned. It sits right on the lake. It has primo real estate. I've actually been really surprised that they have not sold the park to a developer yet. I have a feeling that that's coming in the next probably 10 years. But until then, you can enjoy Lakeside family owned amusement park. I would say ride at your own risk. The rides are all pretty old, but it's super, super cheap. I think they're like, it's like $5 admission during the week and maybe like $12 all you can ride or something like that. I haven't been to Lakeside in many, many years, but when I went, it was a little bit budget, but still a ton of fun. Okay, so we are leaving Berkeley Park. Showed you guys around the park. Showed you Lakeside, which is a Denver staple. And now I'm going to be taking you through some side streets in Berkeley so that you guys can kind of get the vibe. Berkeley has less new development than Low-High, but more new development than Sunnyside. So we'll see a lot of what we call pop top, so maybe little bungalows where they took the top off and made it a full 2-story. If I see one, I'll point one out. And then we also have, you know, full scrape new builds in here as well. There are a couple streets in Berkeley that have like almost the entire blocks have been scraped and are new builds. So the ratio of new build versus original housing, it's a tough one. I would say it's probably on the 60-40, 60% original, 40% new. The Berkeley neighborhood doesn't have quite as much foot traffic as Low-High does, which is to me a perk of the neighborhood. For the most part, the housing here is going to be single families. We'll find a few duplexes sprinkled in here, but like I said, for the most part, it is single family properties. So let's talk housing prices. To get into, you know, a little bungalow like this on the right-hand side, that's probably going to be around $800 to $900 depending on the finishes. If it needs a full remodel, then it'll be between $500 and $600, maybe $650. If it, you know, is nice but could use some updates, it'll be in the $700s. But if it's completely updated, it'll be in the $800s. And let's talk those new build properties. So the new build properties are going to start at $1 million, going all the way up to probably 1.5 in Berkeley, I would say. There are some bigger new builds, and when I say bigger, I mean 3,000 square feet plus, that are going to be in the $2 million range. Those are fewer and far between though. So we're coming up on 38th Avenue. I'm gonna tour us down 38th Avenue here in a few minutes, but I just wanna point out that 38th Avenue is one of the thoroughfares that runs through Sunnyside Berkeley. It's kind of the differentiator. Like as soon as you cross over 38th from Lodi, you're in Sunnyside. As soon as you cross 38th from Highland Square, you're in Berkeley. So it is kind of like a big border street. So let's talk about vibe in Berkeley. Berkeley is definitely a pretty family-friendly neighborhood. It has great walkability, but the properties have nice big yards. And when I say big yards, I mean probably 5,000 to a 7,000 square foot yard is going to be a decent sized yard. So depending on where you're coming from, but for inner city Denver, that is considered a big yard. A typical Denver lot is going to be 3,125 square feet, which is what we see in Lodi frequently. So the lots started being bigger here in Berkeley. Sunnyside has bigger lots as well. So very family friendly, very walkable. You'll find, I don't know, I would say the vibe up here is professionals and families mixed in with original owners who have been here since, you know, the 20s, 30s, 50s. They may have inherited the house from family members. All right, so now I am turning right, or I'm going east on 44th Avenue, and 44th Avenue runs parallel with 46th Avenue. 44th Avenue tends to have a bit more commercial on it. 46th Avenue is mainly all houses. We have a couple churches and schools along 46th Avenue. But 44th will take you all the way from Berkeley into Sunnyside. So it is like a straight shot. Right, and we are headed down Tennyson. So I am going to turn right or go south on Tennyson Street. Tennyson is the main street in Berkeley. So this is where all of the walkability is. So if you really want to make sure that you have great walkability and you're within, you know, a 5-minute walk of restaurants and bars, Tennyson is going to be kind of your focal point, and then go out from there. I don't know if this was by design, but everything for the most part on Tennyson is locally owned. This restaurant up here, we have Fat Sully's and Denver Biscuit Company. Both are really popular restaurants, both for brunch and lunch. This building here on the right used to be an antique store that caught fire and sat for years and years and years. I think they thought arson was involved, and now they're finally redeveloping it into commercial space. So tons of restaurants on this block right here. Sushi, there's like an old Irish bar. We have a cat cafe, and we are headed, I'm turning east onto 38th Avenue. I want to show you again 38th Ave and just the, you know, commercial aspect of it. Again, 38th Avenue is going to be the street that houses your gas stations, your 7-Elevens, your car washes, your grocery stores. The corner that I just turned off of had a King Soopers, which is our big grocer here in the Denver area. And then this building right here in front of us on the right hand side is Sprouts Farmers Market. It's like our you know, mid-grade Whole Foods. I think they're nationwide now, but they started here in Colorado. So 38th Ave, nothing really to write home about. It's needed, but there's nothing really special. It's not a, you know, a destination or anywhere that you would come and hang out. So where I am turning into now is a newer development in the 2000s-ish. And this is the old grounds for Elitch's, which is Denver's, I believe it's Denver's oldest amusement park. And it moved downtown, I believe in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, so a developer came in, bought the land, and started developing. So this building here is the old movie theater from the amusement park, and it still functions as a movie theater. Not quite as, you know, robust as an AMC. They do special showings of movies, special screenings there. I think they're only open on the weekends, maybe not even every weekend. And then this building that is right in front of us is the original gazebo that housed the carousel in Elitch's. And there's something special about the carousel at Elitch's. Like, it's like the oldest carousel in the world or something like that. So they host Christmas tree shop there, hot cocoa. I'm pretty sure Santa shows up. And then this area in here, again, is all newer development, early to mid 2000s. We have some single families mixed in here, but they're, for the most part, it is attached living. So we'll see that a lot of these places are attached to each other, so kind of townhouse style. Alley load garages, which means your front yard is kind of your only yard. And these properties go for the mid 700s. There are a few in this development that are single families that have ADUs above the garage. So if an ADU or an accessory dwelling unit is something that you're after, this might be a good area to consider. And then we also have several original homes that have built ADUs above their garages, because this neighborhood is such a hot spot that they can get premium rents. And then you can even Airbnb it based on Denver's rules. So I didn't mention it when we did this, but when we turned off of 38th Avenue, that is when we entered into West Highlands. So 38th Avenue is kind of our cutoff from Berkeley into the West Highlands area. So I'm going to do one more swoop around this development, and then we'll enter into some other side streets. So you can see all the living here is pretty close together. They're very, very small lots. These two right in front of us are a couple of the single families, and you can see very small front yards, small side yard, and then they have their garage in their back alley. Highlands Square, I would say, is kind of like the original Highlands spot. When we go down onto 32nd Ave, which is the main street. So the West Highlands is comprised of a good mixture of new development and original housing. I would say we're still probably on the maybe 75-25 if I had to assign a ratio to it. 75% original housing, 25% new development. Lots of really cool houses in West Highlands. This one's one of them. I love this house. I've loved it for years. So you'll see that we have, here, this is a 50s built raised ranch. And then right across the street, we have this new build, modern new build. And then we've got another older new build that's actually a pop top right there on our right-hand side. And then we have, some brick Tudors. So a huge mixture of houses, whether you want, original woodwork or something modern new build, you can find it really in any of the Highlands quadrants, but especially here in Highland Square. All right, so let's check out Highland Square itself. Why do they call it Highland Square? Because the square is located at Lowell and 32nd, or 32nd and Lowell. And that is the Main Street area where you have breweries, restaurants, coffee shops. So Highland Square is coined Highland Square because of Highland Square. The streets that create kind of the borders of Highland Square would be 38th Avenue on the north side and 26th Avenue on the south side. And then we have Federal on, well, actually, I'm going to call it Irving. Irving on the east side, and then Sheridan on the west side. So if you want Highland Square, stay within those boundaries, and you'll land yourself a Highland Square property. All right, so now we are starting to get into what is Highland Square. You'll start to see some commercial properties pop up. Got a bank here on the opposite side of the street. We have a little wing restaurant. They're known for their hot wings. Lots of these businesses have been here for years and they're total staples, and then some of them, I see more original businesses than I do new businesses, which I really like to see because sometimes these areas have a lot of turnover. They do host a farmer's market every Saturday during the summer here in Highland Square. I believe they still close down 32nd Avenue between Lowell and Meade to have the farmer's market. All right, so if I went to that second light up there, I would exit what we call Highland Square and enter into the Sunnyside neighborhood. I'm gonna do a little loop around the block and then show you guys the other side of 32nd Avenue. All right, so that concludes our tour of Berkeley and Highland Square quadrants of the Highlands neighborhood. I love the Highlands as a whole and feel like you can't go wrong in any of the 4 different quadrants of the Highlands. It really just depends on what kind of vibe you want and how much walkability you want and how much foot traffic you want around your property. So if you want like to be in the middle of the hustle and bustle, then Low-Hi is your spot. Super easy access to downtown, tons of activity around you all the time, lots of bars, lots of restaurants, lots of life happening. If you want it a little bit quiet but still want to have access to all of those things, then Sunnyside is a great option. And if you want to be a little bit further away from the city and not have a ton of, foot traffic, or maybe have a little bit more of a like small community feel, I would say that Berkeley or Highland Square would be really, really great options. So my next driving tour is going to take us through Sloan's Lake, which is actually just to the south of us by a few blocks. It could be considered part of the Highlands and typically is, but I broke it off into its own neighborhood just because I already have 4 in the Highlands and felt like I needed to get rid of one of them. So catch me in Sloan's Lake.